Hello students. In the previous chapter, we got introduced to demographic dividend and what does it mean in the population sense, the definition, the phases we learned, the characteristics. It's basically when the working population outgrows the dependent population. Moving further, now look at this table very carefully. This table has been divided into three sections. Decade is 1 to 10, 2001, every 10 years. How is the growth happening? Ratio of working and non-working population, percentage of working population. So the first is decades. It's a projected decade between 2021 and 2030 and further on projected. These years have not yet come. So there's a geographical explanation to this. If you look at the second section, you will see the ratio of working to non-working population. The ratio of working population is 1.33 towards the non-working population, that is 1. So the non-working population is stagnant, it's 1. And look at the ratio of working population. It is increasing, and in 2031 there is a decline. Now look at the percentage of working population. The percentage of working population has increased for the first 3 years gradually, 57.1, 60.5 and 64.4. 2031 and 40 it's been projected that it has reduced as comparison to 2021. Now, demographic dividend refers to the growth in an economy which is the result of a change in the age structure of a country's population. I have already spoken about this paragraph. The change comes because of a decline in birth rates and death rates. Fewer birth rates are registered. The number of young dependents grows smaller relative to the working independent population. Dividend is type of a reward that is distributed among shareholders if connected in the economical terms. It is division of profit or surplus received. In a country there is working population and dependent population. The ratio between working and non-working dependent population determines how productive the country is economically. When the population of a country begins the demographic transition, fertility rates, birth rates, death rates also change. There is a change in all three of those. As fewer births are registered, the number of dependents becomes smaller than the working population. With fewer people to support and more people working, economy's resources are invested in other areas. I have said if you have a larger economical population, working population, it helps build the economy because they are contributing to the gross GDP of the country. As a result, per capita income increases over a period of time. This economic benefit is in the form of dividend, which benefits everyone in the economy. The benefits are not achieved automatically. Now these benefits just don't come automatically. What happens? What plays an important role? Demographic dividend depends on whether the government implements the right policies in the areas such as education, health, research. As I said earlier, the government has to take action, frame these policies, put it into action at the right time, in the right place, and the right area. So education, health and research department play a very important role. It depends on the level of schooling, employment, frequency of childbearing. How many children does one have and what is the frequency? Economic policies on tax incentives, health programs, pension and retirement policies. You all know your grandparents, if they have retired from any government job, they get these pensions sitting at home, and there are people who are under the military, the police, all who are under the public services. They get pension. There are different retirement policies for different areas, different sections. Demographic dividend in a country is visible in the following ways. How do we get to know that there is a possibility of demographic dividend happening? Personal savings grow and can be used to stimulate the economy. Now, if when the savings grow, you can make certain investments. So this helps the economy. As number of children are less, parents can invest more in their education. Now, if I have one child, what would I do? I would be giving the child the best. I can afford education. Education is expensive. Children today's times, we need to value what our parents are doing. So education is something which is not 1 or 2 years and you're done with your education. It's an ongoing process. So parents can very well concentrate and invest money in their education. Human capital is built. We are building a future generation which is vibrant, competitive, and ready to face the world. As more women join the labor force and become economically strong, they contribute in the country's economic growth. We are seeing women have taken over many areas and they are working in a lot of areas which even we couldn't have thought of. So women are also contributing as a labor force and they are also adding to the economy. Per capita GDP increases because dependency ratio is decreased. Very clearly the young generation, the young people as well as the elderly, when that is reduced, the per capita GDP always increases, it adds on. The working capital, the working people always add on to the per capita GDP. Now, there is another table which shows country and retirement age reforms being implemented or under consideration. Now, Germany, USA, United Kingdom, these are the strong countries. They have some power within them. They are economically strong. They are financially strong. They have all the strength. So these countries are mostly spoken about as examples, and their success stories are spoken in and around the world. All of them have some retirement policies. Now, why are these retirement policies there? We'll learn. We'll take a few examples. Germany. Retirement age to increase gradually to 66 by 2023 and to 67 by 2029. Means in the year 2023, people will get retired at the age of 66 in Germany and by 67 in the year 2029. There are reasons behind it. We'll get to know those reasons. USA, it has to rise to 67 those who are born in 1960 or later. There's a precondition. United Kingdom, it has to increase by men and women both to 66 by 2020, that is this year, and further to 67 between 2026 and 28. You look at the years, the retirement age is increased by a year. Australia, it has to increase gradually to 67 by 2023. China, by 2045, the increase retirement age for men and both would be 65. Japan, they are considering to raise the retirement age to 70. You can see the elderly population over there, as I've said, is more. India averages 60 years. This can come as a objective question. It may vary from 55 years to 65 years according to services. Which services you are providing in the public zone, it depends on that also. Now, table 2.2 shows that many countries have considered or considering an increase in the retirement age. We are reading about the retirement age only in the second section. This is happening because increase in aging population puts increasing pressure on pension funding, retirement provisions, and medical facilities. Now, till when you are working, you are hale and hearty, the elderly people can work. So then we don't have the government in particular doesn't have the burden of paying them pension, giving them provisions for their retirement and medical facilities. These people, when they get into hospitals also, they get some privileges And to just not add on to those burdens, the government has tried to increase the retirement age so that it doesn't put a burden on all these three things. Therefore, many countries have begun raising the pensionable retirement age. Now, there could be a reason or a question which will be asked, that why has the retirement aging bar raised? Why has it been raised? So you'll have to know the reasons. You'll have to elaborate on these 3 points and take an example of any country and elaborate. Give an example of that. Thus, people can now work up to higher ages. Now, for example, the life expectancy in Japan is around 84 years of age. So that's what, if you all see, in comparison to the other countries, Japan's retirement age goes up to 70. Rest are considering 60 to 67. Another aspect, therefore, they are now considering increasing the retirement age to 70, which at present is 60. So you know the reason behind why Japan is increasing the retirement age. Another aspect which needs to be seen in these countries is their age structure. Now we know population composition comprises of age structure and sex composition. So age structure plays a very important role. So the age structure is studied in that particular country. The proportion of children and young adults in these countries is less. Japan and Germany, and have increased the retirement age. In China, the retirement age will change only after 2045. Now there is a reason behind that also. Because it is only then that the proportion of children and young adults is going to reduce in the age structure. Now you have elaborate on why China will increase its retirement age only after 2045. So you need to know these reasons, because it is only then that the proportion of children and young adults is going to reduce in the age structure. Given that life expectancy is likely to continue rising in India, the growing population of young and child population should also be considered. So India has a different scenario altogether. China is different as compared to Japan, Germany, and other different countries. The next what we are coming to is literacy and education. Literacy. Proportion of literate population of a country is an indicator of its socio-economic development. How as literacy plays a very important role as to how the country is developing economically and socially. It reveals the standard of living, social status of females. Females play a very important role. Women have to be considered in each and every aspect of economic growth of a particular country. Availability of educational facilities, what facilities are available in the educational arena, and policies of those government, of that particular government. The level of economic development is both a cause and consequence of literacy rate. Literacy is one of the most important factors of education as well as the population growth. Every country has its own definition of literacy. Now, what is the definition of literacy in India? Literacy rate domain I have made these screenshots which are very easily you all can see. Percentage of population above 7 years of age which is able to read, write, and has the ability to do arithmetic calculations with understanding. This is a simple definition. You all can get questions related to the defined concepts, different concepts what you all need to define in population 1 part 1 and part 2. I repeat, it is a percentage of population above 7 years. What is literacy I am talking about? Percentage of population above 7 years of age which is able to read, write, and has the ability to do arithmetic calculations with understanding. So clear with what is the concept of literacy and how it plays an important role in the socio-economic development, because it's directly population and growth is already directly dependent on literacy. Now there's another graph. We'll have a look at this. Towards the left of the graph, the bars, there are different continents which are given. Each continent has figures. Yellow indicates total number of people, blue indicates the male, and the pink indicates female. Now, which region has the highest literacy rate? According to this figure, they are trying to study that which continent has the highest literacy rate in comparison to totality, or in males or females. The graph in figure 2.2 clearly tells us that we find differences in the literacy rate in the same continent. Compared to the global average, the literacy rates in Europe, North America, and Eastern and Southeastern Asia countries are higher, whereas they are lower in Northern Africa, Western Asia, South Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. Definitely, where there is no access to educational facilities, you will see there's low literacy rate. Where there is facilities, educational facilities, health, medical facilities, you will see there'll be a growth in literacy rate. In any continent or subcontinent, the literacy rate of females is not more than men. So most of those continents show that females are not more educated than men, except where there is full literacy, as in Central Asia. Full literacy means male and female put together, means there is an equality. It is same in Europe and North America. According to the graph, the lowest literacy rate is in Sub-Saharan Africa. Sahara area, no access to communication, technology, transportation. How can there be literacy rate? There are various factors, which basic facilities also are not there. So how can you have that level of facilities where there is literacy? So it's not possible. Now we come back to occupational structure. Occupational structure. The working population of men and women in the age group of 15 to 59 take part in various primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary occupations. In the previous topic, population part 1, I had spoken to you all how the occupations are segregated. Primary is related to natural resources, I repeat, fishing, farming. Secondary, manufacturing. Tertiary, I spoke about, is service sector. Teacher is a service sector. Quaternary is at the highest top level, where it involves a lot of research. The proportion of working population engaged in these sectors is a good indicator of the levels of economic development of a nation. Through this, we come to know that there is development happening at each section at all levels. Let me see if I've taken a big screenshot of occupational structure. No. Okay. The proportion of working population is a good indicator of the levels of economic development of a nation. This is because only a developed economy with industry and infrastructure can accommodate more workers in the secondary, tertiary, and quaternary sector. What does this mean? It tells us that there are a lot of people who can be accommodated in factories and industries only if the government policies of that particular state are viable, comfortable to have those people employed and get those benefits. So it can accommodate at all levels: secondary, tertiary, manufacturing unit, service sector, quaternary sector. If the economy is still agrarian, then the proportion of people engaged in primary activities is high. Agrarian to society is agricultural society. So primary activity, basic activity, farming is related to agriculture. So it will remain high. Changes in occupational structure in India. Occupational structure refers to the distribution, how it is distributed, of working force into various sectors of economic activity. These all three sectors contribute to the economic activity. Primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector. Primary sector, what it includes, as I repeat, agriculture, allied activities, mixed activities like fisheries, poultry, dairy farming. Secondary activities, they include manufacturing of cars, television, mobile phones, industry, both organized and unorganized. Both sections come. Construction activity, constructing something, building. Tertiary sector, this includes transport, storage, communication, trade, and commerce. Tertiary service, transportation, we've spoken about in part 1. Carrying goods from one place to another. Storage capacity has to be there. Whatever we have in bulk needs to be stored. If there are perishable, non-perishable items, we need to have warehouses. So that's another section. Communication also is part of this industry. Communication, if it's no better, there is no better communication, good communication, how are you going to make your dealings? How are you going to do business? Trade is exchange of goods. Commerce is business related. So if you all see, all three sections contribute to the occupational structure in India. Now, with the help of a diagram, we can see the agricultural sector, agrarian society, poultry, fishing, farming, fisheries. Industrial sector, big industries which are there in and around us, Wakefield, steel industry, iron industry. So they contribute. Tertiary sector, service sector. Now if you see, these all three are connected to one another and they form the occupational structure. Another example, if I can think of, like, okay, how do we tell? Agricultural sector, we have sugarcane, best example. Sugarcane is grown, farming is done. It is cut, taken, transported to various factories. It goes to processing in the industry and we get various products from sugarcane, and the common one is sugar. Tertiary, now that sugar is not kept in factories or warehouses, they are transported. So tertiary sector plays a very important role over here. So all three are connected with one product. I told you these are the examples. Now the rural-urban composition. I've spoken to you about rural is connected to the village areas, urban is connected to the city towns. The division of population into rural and urban is based on the residence, where you reside. This division is necessary because rural and urban lifestyles differ from each other in terms of their livelihood and social conditions. Definitely the different way of style of living we have. So it makes a difference to the social conditions also which prevail in and around our society. The 8-sex occupational structure, density of population, all these concepts we have done in population part 1. And level of development vary between rural and urban areas. Given the circumstances they are in, it will vary. The criteria for differentiating rural and urban population varies from country to country. Yes, the rural and urban population in USA, Canada, or Japan is very different as compared to the rural and urban population over here. In general terms, in common, rural areas are those where people are mainly engaged in primary activities, are farmers. And urban areas are those where majority of the working population is engaged in non-primary activities. When you come to cities like Mumbai, Nagpur, Nasik, so those come into urban areas. So this rural-urban composition also makes a difference and it adds on to the demographic dividend. Last but not the least, migration. Now migration. This is what are we talking about migration. Ram Prasad has grown up in a village in northern India. His uncle who lives in Mumbai has called him to Mumbai and offered him a job. Now I'll just take an example. I'll talk about it. Ram Prasad has grown up in a village in northern India. In north side, he's grown up. His uncle who lives here in Mumbai has called him to Mumbai and offered him a job. So he's asked him to leave North India and come to Mumbai for a job. What does this mean? How does this relate to migration? So we are going to learn about migration. Now, what is migration? The aspects, different terms, different types of migration. Which are the examples which we can call as migration? So we are going to start off with migration in itself has a lot of depth. This concept we need to know nicely in detail. I know you all are aware of migration. You all have learned it in the previous classes, but there is a different angle to learning migration. So we are going to get some knowledge about